Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Myth and Gears. My name is Karen, and tonight we are starting a new campaign called The Long Night, and it's set in our Jeremy Lilley, or down there, his world of momentum. And with that, I will just start the introductions, and we'll start with Jeremy.
You start with me as I'm typing. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy. I have a YouTube channel called the Erasmus Expeditions. I do a lot of live plays, including of this setting right here. I run a campaign set in this world called Whispers and Fragments over on my channel. Go check it out. I'm also 1/3 of the Dudes of Yore podcast with my friends Jeff Doty and Chad Nick. So that's also on YouTube. And yeah, I'm going to be playing an elven rogue named Ivelios Ivariel, also known as Wind Rider. He's an assassin. And I'm really, really excited because this is the first time that I will have the opportunity to actually play in this world as a player. So I'm very, very, very anxious to get into this and stab some bitches.
I'm very excited to have you come on board and play this and see what you bring to it, being your world and all. And next, we will have Baron.
What's up, everybody? I'm Baron. I run the YouTube channel RWD Gaming, where I play D&D with my friends, and we do cool stuff. Come watch us. I am playing. Oh, I don't even know if I can pronounce his last name anymore. I am Durnan Kodenra. I'm Durnan. We'll start with that. I'm a dwarf. And I'm adventuring away from the rim of the world and the adventures over the side to seek out a person who has wronged my clan and perhaps hang out with these losers.
Thank you, Baron. Next, we have Alan.
Hello, everybody. I am Alan, and you can find me at the YouTube channel, Check for Traps, or Twitter, Check for Traps. And tonight I am playing Maul, a Bonekin barbarian who is ready to crush some skulls in a great Conan Frank Frazetta way. So with that, I'll pass it on.
I'm looking forward to that. Next, we have Connor.
I'm Connor of Dice on Ice. I am going to be playing Atreides, a human druid who feels the call of the sea. And I'm super stoked to play tonight.
I am going to butcher your characters' names. I will say this now.
I've screwed my own name.
So thank you for that, Baron, because now I can do it and not feel bad. And last but not least, we have Jason.
I'm just glad that I'm not least. Hello, my name is Jason Osorio. I have a very small YouTube channel called Concepts and Characters. And also I recently joined a group of my friends to make a little D&D 5e live play podcast called Flipping the Table. Definitely check it out. We're just starting our second season now. It's actually been a lot of fun. Yeah, I am playing the Reborn Battlemaster Aegis, and it is a construct that has no memory of its former life before it became one of the Reborn. And yeah, it feels drawn to protect certain groups of individuals, especially elves for whatever reason, and it has been wandering for quite some time, but I am very excited to see what happens.
I am very excited to see how the Reborn are going to play out, because kind of a new little race and thing here, so pretty excited about that. And with that, we will get started. As we start, we see a small seaside village. The sky is dark as night has fallen. Wisps of smoke come up through the air from these houses, and we go inside one of these houses, and we see a grandmother sitting at the side of a bed of a young child. There's a jar on a small wooden nightstand that's just barely cracked open so that the light can come out from it, but not too much because that would be wasteful, as the long night has just started. The child looks up at the grandmother. Just one more. Grandma looks down. Sure, child. Just one more. If I can find it. So once upon a time, many cycles ago, in a place far across the seas of essence, there lived a young woman who longed for more than the life than the small fishing village that she lived in could give her. She longed to sail upon the seas and dreamed of traveling to distant shores to see the wonders that the world held. They sang to her, these waters of the seas. They sang to her and beckoned her closer. She would often take walks along the shore, staring out across the waters, dreaming of the day that she would sail upon them. And then one evening during dusk, she heard the faint noises of a song calling to her, promising her the sea. It captured her heart. As each day of dusk passed, the song became more haunting, more beautiful. Soon, it was the only thing that she could think about. She went out each evening to try and find the source of this melody, but to no avail. And dusk passed into night. Her need became stronger until it consumed her. She no longer ate, no longer slept. She spent her waking hours searching wildly for the source of the soul-capturing music. And then one evening during the night, while she was walking and searching, she found it. Or it found her. No one really knows what happened, as all that was left of her were her shoes on the rocks and footprints walking towards the sea. Small feminine footprints that became elongated and webbed as they approached the water. Footprints that walked right into the sea and disappeared, just like her, never to be seen again. And as the grandmother is telling the story, we see a picture of a woman walking across the shoreline, looking out at the sea. It is dark. Night has already fallen. And as this woman walks between two large rocks that are on the shore, she momentarily becomes not visible to our eyes. And just as she passes out of sight, we hear a scream, muffled, and then silence. We now pass across the sea. And we see a ship upon the water. The waters are rough. The sky is dark. The sea is starting to boil with the wind as it starts to flurry, and the ship begins to toss. It's tossed about by these waves. The winds start up. The rains start to pour down. The clouds are tinged with all sorts of colors, electric blues, yellows. There's static in the air. And as we approach this ship, we see on board many people running this way and that, trying to batten down the hatches, pull in the sails, get ready for this storm that is approaching. And we see the 5 of you on the decks of the ship. And I'd like you guys to please roll initiative.
This will be the first die roll that I ever make with this D20. We all have a round of applause, a little blessing, and a kiss of the webcams. Hey, that's my boy. 19 on the die. So there we go.
All right, that will, I believe we got everybody. So that, Itrides, you are first. You are on this ship. It is being tossed and turned, not really turned, but tossed and round. Waves are crashing upon the decks. Rain is pouring down.
Itrides is hanging from a network of ropes. He seems almost in this moment more simian than human, as he hangs as if they were vines, but these vines are ropes, and he is securing these ropes in different fashions and ways to keep the boat as stable as possible, as he shouts in the storm instructions for the other crew of this ship. As he is an accomplished sailor, he knows the kiss of the sea, he knows her wrath, and he's essentially, like, manning the rigging right now of the sails and of the other various things.
Okay, give me a dex. Yes, you have, what's it, vehicles?
I do have
Water vehicles?
I do have watercrafts as a
You could
proficiency.
add that to it.
Okay, that's going to be a total of 17.
Okay, so you were trying to basically ready the ship. Is that what I get from?
Yeah, I'm keeping it good and going.
Okay. Perfect. So you have managed to, let's say, tie down some of these sails so that they're not
Flapping about.
Yeah, nautical terms. They're no longer down where the wind can catch them. They're out of the way. That is perfect. And that's going to bring us to the storm itself. I need everyone to make me a strength check, please, as a crashing wave comes over the side, threatening to spill you over.
It's going to be a 16.
Quick question there, DM.
Yep.
Is this effect, would it physically move me or knock me prone potentially?
Yes. It would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then I will roll with advantage on this.
Yeah.
And if this is a strength check, could we possibly add athletics?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
Oh, if that's the case, then it's going to be a 19 for me then, if we're adding athletics in there.
So as this wave crashes down upon this ship, most of you are in such an area where you're able to grab on and hang onto something to save your footing. However, Durnan, maybe because you're a little lower to the ground or weren't quite prepared for this, being not used to being away from home, you did not make the roll, and you find yourself sliding across the deck, about to go over. That brings us to Aegis.
So looming behind the captain of the ship, or whoever is manning the helm of the ship during this storm, is this 6.5 foot tall construct of rusted iron and what looks to be some kind of lacquered redwood that is rotting in places, exposing these gears that click and constantly move, producing this quiet ticking sound. And as the rain batters this construct, Aegis would see Durnan starting to lose his footing, and these two pools of this blue, almost aether light shine within the cross-shaped viewing slot of this crested iron helmet that is this creature's head. And it would start to move over to Durnan. These heavy, weighty footsteps as the rain lashes it. And it is going to move in that direction to try and stabilize the dwarf to keep him from going over the side. Not rushing necessarily, seemingly disinterested in the storm raging around it, but definitely moving with a little bit of haste.
What's your movement speed?
My movement speed is 30, so just standard 30 feet.
You should be able to get to him in this round if you wanted to try to stop him from falling over.
Absolutely. And these mismatched iron gauntlets, reticulated iron gauntlets, would reach out to you, Durnan. You just feel this iron grasp on your shoulders, and this reedy voice, barely audible over the storm, just say, "Watch your footing, dwarf." And then it would grab you and start to pull you back onto the ship proper.
So make me a check. It can either be like a dex or strength.
I'll do
Grab him.
strength. That sounds great. Just a straight check, correct?
Yeah.
It's the second 8 I've rolled this evening. How about a 10?
You are unable to grab onto poor Durnan. He was too slippery, the deck maybe itself, but or you timed it wrong. However, you are not able to grab him.
Understood.
We now have Maul. It's your turn.
This Bonekin, slate gray of skin, broad-chested bear, just scarred with whiplashes from the time he was a slave on a ship, moves with haste over to these other deckhands that are trying to secure, see these barrels and crates with ropes against the railing of the ship, and he steps up behind them, picks up the rope, and almost with ease, just and the rope pulls tight as he ties it off, securing this cargo that's on the deck so it doesn't slide and fall off the deck and or hurt somebody.
Perfect. You can make me a dex check on that, for tying the rope, how quickly and how well you can do that.
Okay. Is my watercraft going to come into play in that as well? Vehicles, water?
Not in this one, because you're trying to tie down something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. No, that is a natural 1.
Maybe what's happened as you go to pull this rope tight, it snaps. You're too strong, or it was too weak, or somehow maybe it was rotted, but the rope snaps in your hand and the cargo will not be tied down.
You would hear him shout out, "Arzakun, you curse us!" as he screams out towards the god of storms.
That brings us to Durnan. Durnan, you find yourself floundering on the deck. You are about to go over. I need you to make me a deck save to see if you can grab onto the railing before you're overboard.
Would a 12 do it?
Yes, actually, it will.
Okay, sure, Karen.
I had to look down, like, no, DC 12. So, no, you made it. What did you grab onto, and what are you doing?
I think the railing itself. Like, I slipped through the slats or went over top them and just managed to grab the railing itself. Like the last thing I could grab.
Okay, so maybe you're like kind of partially dangling on the other side of the boat at this point.
Yeah, sure.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to use whatever movement I have to hop over this railing and kind of brace myself back on the solid deck of the ship. And I'm going to look to Aegis and piss off, you waste of metal. You elves need all the help you can get. And I'm going to cast Bless on myself, Aegis, and Avilios. And that'll be my turn.
Okay, and that will bring us to Avilios. Avelios? Avelios?
Avelios. You can just call him Ivy for short. So Avelios is in the rigging, maybe even in the crow's nest itself, actually. And he is attempting to try to find a safe path through this storm, maybe trying to avoid the largest of the waves, or at least be able to warn about them whenever they're about to crash into us. And he's kind of looking down at everyone, trying to keep an eye on things. He does not care for sailing on the water. He's sailed on airships before, and there's just something different about this. It feels different beneath him, and he doesn't trust it wholly. So he's not comfortable, and he wants to know what's coming before it comes. That's why he's up in the crow's nest, trying to peer.
Okay, you can make me a perception check. However, because of the storm and the dark, you will be at disadvantage.
Disadvantage. Okay. Okay, so could have been a critical. But thanks, Karen. Instead, no, it's 15.
You also get to roll a d4 for
Ooh. It goes to skill checks as well?
ability checks or attacks.
Sweet. Ooh, that's a 4. So that'll be a 19. Nope. Yep. 12 and 7. Yep. 19.
I just straight up lied to its saving throws.
You son of a bitch, you made me cheat!
As the prophecy foretold.
But at what cost?
It's because we can't have nice things.
All right. So as you're up there looking down, you're not sure if you see anything. Then you're pretty sure you saw something, but then you're not quite sure again. But as it turns out, you do. You see in the water some dark shapes. They look like they might be trying to approach the ship.
He will call down, kind of trying to yell over the crashing of the thunder. Something approaches the ship. This side, over here, and there. 2 things. large and dark in the water.
That brings us back to the top of the order. Atrides. What are you doing?
At the calling of our crow in the crow's nest, Atrides will do his best to like glance down over the side of the ship, and likewise try and spot some of the things that were mentioned.
So you can give me a perception roll, also at disadvantage.
It's going to be a 13 on perception.
You are not seeing what Avelios is talking about. Maybe it's from the angle that you're at, but you do not see. What do you do?
He will continue then to keep the ship from capsizing, essentially, through his nautical activities.
All right, you can give me another check, please.
Okay. Oof, that's going to be a 22.
All right, okay. You feel like it's that you're getting it under control, that you've got this covered. And that's when you feel the air around you starts to become really like static almost. And there's a pocket that forms, and you find the ship starting to float as the ether of these clouds starts to coalesce around your ship. So as we say that, the ship begins to rise. That brings us to Aegis.
And Aegis, in response to Durnan's remark earlier, has just been staring at him again with these pools of blue etheric light. And then as it sees these tendrils of blue ether kind of coalescing around the ship, you would just hear Durnan very quietly, "Interesting." And then she hears Velios's cry. She sees, God, it's the first time I'm saying this name, Atrides looking in the direction, or trying to look in the direction that the elf had mentioned. And she is going to, or it, excuse me, is just going to try and move over in that direction. Again, these heavy footsteps. It's going to unsling its shield and draw out this this blade, which as it pulls it from the scabbard on its back, or the sheath on its back, it glows with the ether sort of reflecting it. It is this ether blade, essentially a crystallized shard of ether wreathed in energy. And it is going to attempt to do sort of the same as Atrides, to see if it can see what Evelios was talking about.
Can you give me a perception check? It's also at disadvantage.
Oh, no, that's right. Evelios had dark vision as well. Never mind. Well, that's a natural one. So there's that.
So as you bring out the sword, the light maybe shines too brightly, and you cannot see past it into the darkness that's now becoming quickly below you. Is that that was your turn, right?
Yeah, I think Aegis would also just move its full movement over to, I guess, the opposite side of the ship from where it was, just trying to see. Still blinded by light, but just still trying to see.
Okay. That will bring us to Maul.
So Maul would, with everything going on, again, having been on the sea before, he is going to start to tie his lifeline around his waist and yell out for the others to secure their lifelines as well. Whether you're on an airship or on a boat, lifeline can save your life. And he also, not knowing what's coming, but hearing the warning of danger, he will ready this Colossi bone club that's inscribed with like tribal insignia across it, as he just kind of like readies for whatever may jump onto the ship from the side that Avalos had pointed out. So I'm just going to ready an action for whatever may come, if it comes.
Okay. And that brings us to Durnan then.
I think I would like to go up to whoever is manning the wheel of the ship, if I can make it up there.
Yep, you can try.
That's what I would like to do. Just run up there.
Okay, and then once you're there, what will you do?
Who is up there? Who is it? Is it? I'm not going to take the ship. I'm not going to take.
We're all worried. So yeah, so it is there is the captain himself plus his helmsman are up there.
All right, do you think you could steady us out a bit? I'm just gonna go talk to them, give them hell. See
They kind of
ultimately aid them. That's what I'm gonna do, is aid them.
You're gonna try to aid them? Okay. Yeah. The helmsman is he's not really in the mood to talk to you at this point because he's struggling with the words are failing me today. The wheel. Because all of a sudden, as soon as the ship got airborne, all that, the pressure that he was feeling from the waves, it was just gone, and the thing started spinning out of control. So he's a little bit busy at the moment, but the captain just looks at you and points towards something in the back of the ship, like readying the anchor. Potentially, if they go too high, that could be possibly a problem. This is not an airship and was never meant to fly.
Right. So acknowledging that, I'm going to finish up. Should it? Okay, so you're not alone with words today. I'm going to finish out my turn by casting Spiritual Weapon as a bonus action.
Perfect.
So with that, you see Durnan kind of reaches into his cloak and kind of holds something in between his hands, and a kind of flash of light, not enough to blind you in this kind of twilight of the storm, but visible nonetheless. And he kind of separates his hand, and in between a like silver, like very ornately done spear with like stonework ivy kind of around the blade materialize in air and float around him. And that's
Cool.
my turn.
That brings us to Avelios.
So these tendrils of ether are kind of what's holding the ship aloft at the moment.
Yeah, it's almost like this bubble has kind of really formed around the ship.
Oh, I see. So it kind of like encapsulates us.
Yeah, more the actual deck of the ship, like the bottom part, less where you're at, but down the body of the ship has, seemed to be covered with this ether.
So securing his lifeline as suggested by the Bonekin, since Avelios knows that he has been around an ocean-going vessel, and again, he has been on airships before. After he has secured this rope, he's going to secure himself with a rather long length of rope. And as he's done so, he's going to then turn and kind of swan dive out of the crow's nest And as he does so, he spreads his limbs out and starts to like glide around without directly falling downwards. And as he's doing so, he's going to kind of angle himself out and away from the ship to kind of try to get a good look as to what might be underneath, maybe get a closer look at these darker shapes before he kind of turns back towards the ship and is going to attempt to land on the deck. I'm going to be using Irashara's Blessing. I can read that if you need me to.
Yes, please. I don't remember it.
Okay. Features and traits. Okay. You can call upon the ether within yourself to glide through the air and to lessen the dangers of falling. For every 10 feet that you fall, you may move up to your normal speed laterally. When you reach 3rd level, you can cast Featherfall spell once per day. When you reach 5th level, you can also cast the Levitate spell once per day.
Nice. Okay. So while you are gliding down from your perch down to the deck, you can make me a perception roll. At disadvantage.
Disadvantage? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and add that bless. No. 12 this time.
Just muted myself. Jeez. You do not see anything this time. Maybe it's because you are now a little bit higher than you were before and the waves are crashing down below you, but you've lost sight of whatever it was that you saw earlier.
Would you like an acrobatics or anything to land, or?
Yeah, because you can fall and move. You're gliding. No, I'm going to say you're fine. You land on the deck.
Okay.
Yeah. That brings us back to the top of the order. And before you go, Atreides, barely over the roar of the wind, you start to hear a song singing. This is all of you. It's haunting and it's beautiful. And I need each of you to roll a wisdom saving throw.
Now you guys get the +4 or plus D4.
Oh,
I
and
got a 14.
you guys are at advantage because of the wind.
Oh. Turned that 14 into a 15 because I rolled one higher.
I got a 16.
19 total with bless.
Oh, I forgot plus 2. 7. Yeah, 17.
I also got a 17.
I got a dirty 20.
You all saved. You can feel the song as it tries to get into your mind, but you are all able to shake it off, probably because it's so soft, the wind is so loud, but it does not affect you. Atreides.
Atreides sees his crew people tying off their lifelines, and he just smirks as he stands sure-footed on the deck of the ship and continues, I guess, to ensure everyone else's safety. So he's tying lifelines for other people rather than his own.
Okay, so you're going around and helping those who are struggling getting their own lifelines tied in?
Exactly.
And with that, we leave the boat for right now. And we find ourselves back in a small fishing village just outside of Arzarkun. It's called the Fingers because of the fingers just offshore that you can see in the water. And Atrides, we see you sitting in, maybe this is a tavern, some dark place. Who is sitting with you?
This would be Maul sitting with me in this tavern.
What are you guys doing?
Atrides is relaxing, or I guess unwinding, after a very laborious day of work. And this is when he gets to kick up his feet, proverbially and physically. And perhaps this is even before, or I don't know quite chronologically where we're at, but this might even be before that ship scene that we were just on, before I even met Maul. Maybe it's even just like the showing of how we met, kind of just like sheer coincidence, has us at the same proximity with each other.
Yeah, sorry, I should have explained. This would be a couple of weeks prior to being on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's complete silence because we are complete strangers. The only thing that unifies us is our physical location. But I feel like perhaps something happens. Someone spills a drink. Some drunken patron spills a drink onto Maul, and I'm there, and I see it happen. And then, yeah. How does Maul react to this?
Yeah, so I imagine Maul, again, a hard day working at the docks, just trying to come in and have several ales. And before he can even like get his first sip in, he gets bumped and like his spills over and the other one spills on him. And he immediately like stands up. The seat makes that sound across the wood floor there as this like towering Bonekin that would basically towers over most men, and he's just as wide. Just kind of looks down at this human other dock worker, and doesn't even say much, but just kind of like grabs him by the front of his clothes and like just headbutts him.
And the guy is completely not expecting this headbutt from you, and you give him a solid hit. You can roll if you want to, otherwise we'll just carry on.
Sure. Let's see here. That's a D8 with the horns. Plus strength, so that's going to be 8 bludgeoning.
Yeah, so you probably knock this guy right out. And he kind of just like, you grab him, you headbutt him, and he just slumps to the ground. Well, unless you are still holding on to him.
No, I imagine like he headbutts him and he just falls into some chairs. And he just Maul would just look over at the bar. Another ale on this one. And he just points to the drunk that's kind of laid out on the floor. And he begrudgingly turns back to his chair and he just kind of slumps in it as he's got nothing to drink. And that's when he catches
Atrides.
Atrides, yeah, there you go. Catches Atrides' eye. What are you looking at?
And you can see that Atrides is like staring at you, staring at the scene that just happened, but he is silent and he's almost like unblinking. His eyes are a bit like almost like a wax sheen to them. And he kind of just like shrugs his shoulder as you ask him this. but otherwise doesn't really say anything. Trying to like brush it off to not start anything. But then if silence continues and you're like, I don't know, nose breathing at him, he'll say, "It was a nice hit."
They claim that these city dwellers are civilized. I see lack of civilization here.
I don't know where you heard those stories from. Don't think civilized here. It's the roads we walk on. We all wax and wane with the call of the tides here. Tide goes out. Boats get moored. Tide comes in. It's time to go fish. It's like that every day. You can call that civilization if you want. We're all just grubs warming our way over some greater piece of meat. Kind of, he just like calls up some phlegm, spits it on the tavern floor. Where are you from then? You don't look like you're from here. And he looks at your horns when he says that.
Yeah, you would notice that he doesn't have two perfect horns. One of them is actually broken, kind of sheared from probably most likely a battle, your guess. No, my home is far from here. It was taken from there. I look to get back to the plains of my people. But I must... He kind of looks down for a moment. I must find my family before I can return.
Oh, and they're here?
No, I do not know where they are. They were sold as slaves. I was as well. I was on a ship for years. And now I aim to find them and make those who took us pay for their injustice.
I use that word carefully around here. A lot of injustice floating around.
I fear no man. He just kind of looks up at any that would challenge.
And Atreides actually slinks back as you shout out, almost in almost like a flinch of not flinching from you, but flinching from the repercussions of someone just boisterously yelling in a otherwise kind of creaky and dead and briny tavern.
Is there none who would challenge me? As he says, but not so much for a fight, but as he that's when two of these, probably the largest tankards of ale that this place has, gets kind of slammed and sloshed onto the table between them. And he looks around for any challengers that would try to drink him under the table.
Come on, it's a work night. You don't think anyone would do this? All of us here gotta wake up at the crack of dawn. It's a fool's wish.
And as you say that, the door opens to the tavern, and in walks this older lady. Atreides, you recognize her as Marika Gadera. And she looks at you. Her eyes meet, and she approaches your table. And you can see that she is worried, that she might have been crying at one point. You can describe her to everyone.
This woman, when she walks into this place, the floorboards of this otherwise plain place would creak and groan and strain underneath her weight. She's very large, and on her face, she has many folds to her skin, and each fold has dozens of large, plump moles, each with large, curly hairs that grow out of them, and these dimples that make you wonder if they've ever seen the light of day. And she's wearing not flamboyant, more posh clothes, and she stands out like a sore thumb in this place. She looks like she is of great wealth. She has many baubles around her fingers, many jewels and gems hang from her ears and around her neck. And when she walks in, there is an actual silence that made whatever was happening before sound like the most boisterous of evenings. But now it's silent, and all of the dock workers and fishermen and everyone in this place look up from their drinks, and it's like as if a wolf just walked in to a corral of sheep. None dare make a move. And this expression on her face, the puffiness of her eyes, is almost uncharacteristic, as she's been known to wield nothing but an iron fist and anger and lashings at the people who work here and the people who live here. And Atreides would try to like non-verbally get you to like calm down, Maul, like to try and just like you know, with gesturing very very loosely, just to like to calm your tits, as this woman approaches.
And approach she does quite quickly from how she normally walks, which is to say she lumbers. But she comes up, she's like, Atreides, I've been looking for you. I need you. My daughter, she's gone missing. I need you to find her.
And like Atreides looks behind him, and like has that, gesture where he's pointing to himself but looking around, wondering like if she's talking to someone else. And you'd see Maul, a nervous bead of sweat begin to form at the top of Atreides' forehead. You realize that Atreides is bald, and you'd also notice that Atreides has not a single hair on his body, and not even eyebrows, anything like that. And he just, he's got this like nervousness to him. Who, me?
Yes, I could think of no one better. You are good at sailing. You are sneaky too. I've seen you with my boat, but we'll forget about that. If you find her, bring her home.
Yes. And he stands at the equivalent of attention for essentially a fisherman's slave trade, as he stands rigid, accepting this duty and task that's been put forward to him. And he kind of stammer, where the hell is she?
And with that, we will leave the tavern behind. And we are now back at the boat on the ocean. Well, above the ocean at this point. And as the ship climbs into the sky, the air suddenly grows cold, and the pelting rain that you've been feeling turns to like ice crystals and pelts down upon you. And I need everyone to please make a dex save.
We're still blessed, right, Durnan? Who?
got a 16 on my dex save. Because this dice is rolling hot tonight. I think I've only rolled once below a 10 at this point.
I'm going to ask this again just because I rolled really crappy. I'm just curious. Is this something that could potentially move me and or knock me over?
No, not this one.
Okay, then that's like a 4.
All right, so for everybody's going to take 1 point of bludgeoning damage as these, for lack of a better word, balls of hail are striking you. Those who did not save, which are everybody but, okay, so Avelios and Maul saved. The rest of you will take 4 more points of bludgeoning damage as a particularly large hail ball will hit you on the head. You are all, the ones who get hit will also be stunned for 1 round.
If you say who it was that failed again for me, please? Or just if I failed or passed for the 14?
You passed. Yeah, you
okay,
and...
So I get the 1 point.
Yeah, you just take 1.
Glorious. Thank you.
And that brings us to Aegis.
Who is stunned. I imagine as this larger hailstone kind of impacts the this crested, rusty iron helmet, the constructs, maybe some gears were protruding slightly from a hole in the helmet, and they just get slammed with this ball of ice, and these blue aether sparks sputter out of the gash, and it just stumbles back, trying to stabilize itself, and it cannot act at all.
Okay, then we will pass on to Maul. Maul, it is your turn.
Okay. And it's just the ship is in the air, weather effects, but no visible enemies at this point, correct?
That is correct. You have not been able to see any at this moment.
Right. I guess I will try. I will go to the side of the ship, and then I will try to see. I don't know if there's something below us or something that he can do to end this. The ship from rising into the air.
Okay, make me a perception check.
All right. That is a 10.
You do not see anything. The seas below you are starting to become a fair distance away. That you're probably about 40 feet up now.
Gotcha.
Is there anything else you'd like to do for your turn?
Not unless there's something that I mean, he would just be frantically trying to figure out what is going on, thinking it nothing more than the will of the gods at this point.
Okay, and that will bring us to Durnan.
Durnan likewise is kind of pelted by this hail, and if I'm stunned, does that automatically cancel my concentration spell, or do I roll concentration? Crowdsourcing for an answer here.
I'm going to say you just roll concentration because of the damage, right?
Well, I'm stunned, so I didn't know. Doesn't matter. No more bless. And I'm stunned for the round. Durnan's struggling.
And that will bring us to Avelios.
So Avelios took like partial shelter under like a scrap of canvas that was kind of stretched tight or something, enough to get out of the worst of this hail just as it started. And he's going to move over to the gunwale of the ship and kind of peer over to see if those dark shapes are still down there. And he's going to pull his short bow kind of off from around his body and reach back and open the top of his quiver, this kind of leather like almost like a long tube with this circular cap on it. He's going to open that and pull out this fletched arrow. It's got these white and black striped fletchings. He's going to knock it onto the string and pull back and shoot downward at one of these dark shapes.
Okay, you can make me an attack roll.
Would you like it with disadvantage since it's underwater, or?
Yes, I would like it at disadvantage. Yes.
I wouldn't like it at disadvantage. I was asking, just because. Ooh, that, however, is only going to be a 10. If only I had a bless that I could add. No,
if only. You need to pray harder. So your arrow, you were shooting an arrow, right? Yeah, it splashes into the water. You're unsure if it was even close or not to what you were aiming at. It's hard to tell with the buffeting of the ship at this point. And with that, we will go to the top of the round.
So I see.
I'm going to see before you go. Sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking down. Took a little too long on that one. The song that you've been hearing that was at this, just kind of at the kind of in the back of your mind, you can barely hear, is getting louder. I need you all to make another wisdom save.
16 for me. Sorry.
Still at advantage. Is it still at advantage because of the noise, or?
Yes, it would still be at advantage.
18 for me.
13.
I also got a 13.
All of you pass. Okay, so you could tell from that song as it's getting louder, it also changed a little bit to a different sound. Still the same song, but a different sound. But you guys were all able to ignore the pressing of this song upon your soul. But at that, we see cresting the waters below you 5 figures. And they will each try to aim and hit at you. This will be at disadvantage. Well, not disadvantage. This is you are higher than them, right? Yeah, so you guys will have cover. And they have disadvantage. Okay, so the first one misses. Second one misses. Third. Okay, the 5th one, however, will hit. Maul. As you're standing there looking over the edge, all of a sudden a harpoon pierces your leg. You are going to take 10 points of piercing damage, and I need you to roll me a strength check. This is a contested strength roll.
Athletic applies. Well, it's a net 20.
Okay, so this harpoon pierces your leg, and you can feel that it starts to reel in, and you are being pulled towards the boat, the edge of the boat. However, your strength, you are able to snap off the harpoon such that you are no longer being pulled towards the edge. And that
could I, as a reaction, could I reverse that and start pulling up on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
I'll just, so I guess we can do another strength contest.
Well, I said you won that one. So if you, instead of you trying to break it, if you were trying to pull back on it.
Yeah.
So you can, you gave it a good yank, and all of a sudden you are now reeling in a harpoon gun.
Oh, okay.
It'll take you a little bit of time to get it to you, but you have got that going.
All right.
And that brings us to Atreides.
So in the wake of all this hailstorm, where other people would like duck and cover, Atreides is still kind of swinging from these riggings. And he looks up to the sky and he would cackle and laugh as the hail falls. This seems very strange for other people, but it's something that Atreides does. And he sees the harpooning of Maul, a person that he has met in a previous moment. But then he sees him kind of like grab it from how it's sunk and begin to reel it in. And Atreides would leap down and join Maul in the Maul's hauling of the thing at the end, at the other end of this rope. And so this will just be the help action, I guess, for on your turn, Maul. So you'll get advantage on hauling the Maul up the Maul hall.
All right. And so with that, the ice continues to pelt down upon you. Everybody will take another 3 points this time of bludgeoning as these stones are getting bigger. And everybody else still needs to make another dex save, please.
It'll be a 14 for me.
I rolled an 8.
Was that the 7th time this game? Or is it the 8th?
That is the fourth 8 I have rolled.
So Aegis and Ivelios, you both fail. So you're going to each take 2 more points of damage. 2 more, yeah. And then you are stunned for this round. So that brings us to Aegis. Who
is stunned. I
still
imagine that, yeah, the construct is just getting bombarded, and it's trying to reach for the this massive iron kite shield strapped across its back, kind of over the sheath that held the Aether sword. But it just keeps getting bombarded with chunks of ice and stone, so it can't quite reach back as it just kind of shudders and judders, these sparks of Aether erupting from various kind of gaps in the armor and the lacquered redwood that forms its body.
And with that, we again leave the ship and find ourselves back in the tavern, where this lady drops an item onto the table. And Aegis, from a corner of this tavern, you are sitting, being quiet. But at the sound of this item dropping on the table, you look up and you see it. And you recognize it. What is it?
I imagine, and the lady's name, just to clarify, was Marika Godera. Is that correct? How you pronounce that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It's the sound of stone hitting the wood of the table, and it is actually this beautifully carved statue of an urstag, of this sort of grizzly-like creature with these branching antlers jutting out of its head, sort of rearing back in this roaring position. But the details are so fine, you can almost pick out the individual strands of the creature's fur. And as these pools of etheric light that are Aegis's eyes snap to this statuette, which is probably only a couple of inches tall, the construct stands, the chair sort of creaking as it is relieved of the weight of all of this rusted iron and decaying wood. And it clomps over to Marika and Maul and Atreides. And this raspy voice says, as this gauntleted finger points at the statuette, "Where did you get that?"
And the lady looks at you. She's taken aback, like, how dare you, this thing, approach her like this without her leave. And she kind of steps back a little bit of a fear kind of covering in her, like going through her eyes. And she grabs it quickly, this Urstag statuette. And she's like, "It's my daughter's. It was the only thing we found when we looked. It was left there on the shore. That's how I know she was gone."
And the pointing hand will flip over to a palm facing up, as if the construct is asking Marika to put the statuette in its hand. And the voice says, "May I see it for a moment? I will return it to you."
And Marika hesitates, but desperation overwhelms her and kind of overcomes the fear and revulsion that she has for you. And she places the statuette in your palm.
And I would definitely imagine that compared to the other Reborn that maybe Marika has seen, that this one is exceptional, but not in the craftsmanship is so wonderful sort of way. It's the exact opposite. There's no fancy gilding. There's no ornate decorations or designs. There's no, as I mentioned before, no discernible gender of who this individual was before he or she became reborn. So it's definitely a little frightening. It almost is more of a walking suit of armor and wood, as it takes the statuette and it takes its other hand and lifts it up to look at the base of the statue, at the bottom of the statuette. And the pools of aether that are Aegis's eyes narrow into these slits as it regards the maker's mark on the bottom of the statuette, which is just a simple flower. And the construct puts the statuette back on the table in front of Marika and says again in this reedy, genderless voice, "What happened to your daughter?"
"She did not come home. She always comes home. She's a good child. She did not come home, and so we went looking for her, and this is what we found. And she is gone. I don't know where. I am afraid."
And Aegis would just go still for a moment, resembling nothing more than a statue, as it regards Marika and then Maul and then Atreides. And then the head would slowly turn again with this faint clicking of gears and churning of pistons towards Marika. And it says, "You will have me. I will assist these two if they are to join me in the search for your daughter. I would know where she found or obtained this statuette." And Marika would see that hanging sort of around this construct's neck, if you can call it a neck, is this silver chain with a very fine miniature carved rose of obsidian. And if she were to take a look at the bottom of the statuette, the maker's mark of whoever crafted the statuette is the same as the rose around Aegis's neck.
And I think there's an audible gasp, but Marika does not say anything.
I will take your silence as a yes.
And she nods. And then kind of gestures back like she would like her statuette back.
Oh yeah, it's still on the table.
Okay.
Where you just left it.
Okay. And at that, we again find ourselves back at the ship. And at the mall, it is your turn. I believe you are stunned.
All right.
Were you stunned or did you make it?
No, I made it.
You made it, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm. Well, I mean, I would pull up that harpoon gun, but my goal was to pull up whatever was on the other end of it. So if I feel it go slack, like the only thing I'm pulling up is the gun, then I don't really care about that piece.
Oh yeah, it immediately went slack. Like it was like you
Okay.
ripped it out of its arms or something.
Well, if they won't come to me, I guess I will go to them. So yeah, I mean, Maul's tied off, so he would basically like just kind of step back a bit, and then he would like run over, knowing that his lifeline's secure, and he would just kind of like run off the side, knowing that the slack will run tight, and then he'll be able to stand on the side of the ship.
Yeah, the ship is currently about 50 feet above the water surface.
Right.
So you're going to stand on the side of the ship.
Yeah, I'm trying
facing
to.
down?
If they are below us, then I'm gonna try and go to them.
Yeah, they're definitely below you. They're in the water at this point. So they're about 50 feet below you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So they're 50 feet below, in the water below the ship.
Yeah. The ship is up in the air, and down below them, below you, is the water and these creatures.
Okay, so there's a big gap of air there.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Then I guess I would not leap off the ship. I would just Aegis, I mean, can I like snap him out of his stunness, or is Durin stunned?
I think everybody was stunned except Evelios and Maul. No, Evelios.
No, Evelios was stunned. Me
Yeah.
and Maul were good.
Yeah, so it's
Gotcha.
Aegis and Evelios who are stunned this round.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm just kind of. I guess I'll just continue just to ready for. If something ever comes aboard the ship, then he's ready to attack it.
Okay, all right then.
Yeah.
We will go on to Durnan.
Durnan was up by the captain and the helmsman. What was the back end couldn't go above so high? That was the thing.
They were afraid to go too high. If this thing just keeps sailing out into the air, it's not where it's meant to be. So
that's still a problem. Is there anything that's like broken, like piece of equipment or ropes or anything of the sort like that?
Make me an investigation check.
I'm not very smart. But hopefully that won't matter. With my -1 intelligence, I got a 16.
Yes, so there definitely is something broken. This ship has been battered a bit. So describe what it is that you found and how you're going to use it.
Perhaps it's even the rope that maul broke trying to secure the cargo or the barrels or whatever. And I'm just gonna mend it. I'm gonna fix it.
Okay. Is that with a spell? Mend?
Yeah, mending.
Okay. Perfect. That brings us to Avelios. You are currently stunned.
As Ivelios had fired the first shot, he kind of cursed because he missed trying to shoot down into the water. And as he kind of took a step back, there's this like hollow noise as this ball of ice like strikes him kind of right on the crown of the skull. And for a second, his eyes kind of go blurry, and he takes like a staggering step, almost falling over the gunnel, but catching himself and having to wait just a moment for his head to clear and kind of regain his composure.
Okay, and that brings us back to the top of the order, where the creatures in the water below you kind of leap and dive back down, having shot their guns. 4 of them are reloading it, while the other one has no longer got it. And that is their turn. Atreides.
Atreides glances down at the tumultuous water down below. How far is it roughly to the water surface?
It is almost 60 feet now.
And he's looking for those shapes. He saw 5 of, or there's 5 of them, right? Did he get any like glance of what they look like?
You can make a perception check.
Is this disadvantage?
Still disadvantage, yeah.
Hey, 13 on the die. Sorry, 13 total.
So you want to know what they look like?
Yes.
I have a picture. So as they kind of leap out of the water before they return back into it, you catch a glimpse of what they are. And you see them. And you know them to be the drowned.
Does he have a visual on them? Can he like see where they are and their movements and enough to like be able to aim something at them, perhaps? Or are they too far gone and hidden from view in the end?
If you're talking, Karen, you're muted.
Of course I'm muted. I was like, he's giving me the side eye, and I'm like, what? What am I not making sense? They've dived into the water. They're in the water. They're not they're not deep in the water, so you can still see them and see their shapes, but they are in the water.
And they've been taking repeated shots at us, correct? Or has it just been the one shot in total?
It's just been the one volley so far.
Is there anyone? Is there? Atreides will like grab the people that might be near the edge of the shipness, pull them off the edge just to like make them not in visible line of sight with these drowned that are firing spears at us, and kind of like get them to be, I guess out of line of shot.
Yeah, so it's at that point when you notice, as you're trying to grab the other crewmen that are on the ship, that you see a couple actually jump down into the depths below you of their own free will.
And he grits his teeth and you just blast it. I feel like there would be precautions done by sailors on these waters. Little waxy things they can shove in their ears when such terrible phenomena happen. And if you'll allow it, Atreides will put in some earplugs. As a veteran sailor of waters.
Atreides would definitely know the dangers being around the sea all this time. So yeah, I would say that he would probably have some sort of device that he could put in his ears to help. It may not get rid of the sound entirely, but it definitely lessens it.
Yeah, so he has these a little pouch squirreled away in his watertight gear. And in this pouch is a smaller pouch, and in that smaller pouch is like these folds of almost like fabric, and in these folds of fabric are 2 little beads of wax. And you pull, and there's like the camera would see there's maybe like 10 or so of these little beads of wax in this pouch. Pulls out 2 of them, removes the fabric from them, tiny little squares, and would just shove them in his ears as deep as they would go to block the noise of the call of the water.
With that, the air around the ship lightens as an ether strike flies from cloud to cloud. Everyone on board, I need you to make a con save from the loud cracking sound that follows this bright flash of light. And Aegis, this, you would get the your advantage on this particular one.
Thank God, because I've been rolling like crap all night. That's a 19. That's much better than the 12 I just got.
So we got a 15, a 20, a 23, a 20, and a 19. Okay, so you all pass. So as this lightning strike goes off, you can just feel it reverberating through your entire body. The sound is deafening, but you guys manage to keep your feet, and you can see around you, though, that other crewmen are not so lucky as they fall to the ground, knocked back from this sound that happened. And it is at that point where this, for lack of a better word, bubble of ether that is surrounding your ship bursts, and the ship plummets to the sea below. It's going to take a whole whack of damage. Oh my God, I rolled a lot of 6s. Okay. It takes 30 points of damage. So as the ship smacks into the ocean hard, things crack. You can hear the hull probably splinter in places. That was not a good sound. Where was everybody? Everybody was on the deck themselves?
Correct.
So that is actually very fortunate for everybody. So you guys are going to take 2 points of damage as you kind of rise a little bit off of the deck, and then you slam onto the floor of the deck. I'm not going to say any of you're not prone or anything. You're just that was quite the jarring motion that the ship does. But you are now back down on the water. Aegis, it is your turn.
Oh boy. So is Aegis scans the deck, hearing the awful smacking sound and then the cracking of wood. Does it look like the ship is about to break apart, or does it look like it could take a couple more hits if necessary?
It could probably take another one of those hits, but at that point you would be in very bad shape.
Wow. This is interesting. So Aegis is going to look towards where it knows there's a door that leads down into the belly of the ship, thinking that maybe it might some kind of sense to drop anchor potentially. But then it looks around the deck and sees everything that's happening with the crew, and those pools of aether light lock onto you, Avelios, and the Reborn actually makes its way up to you, just kind of clomping across the deck, and it says to you, "You have another bow or any spears. I have nothing that can strike these creatures in the water."
No, my friend, I have but the one bow. However, I am sure that the crew probably has other implements, perhaps harpoons of their own. If not, it kind of points towards where the Bonekin is. There is one in his leg.
Ah, a good point. And then Aegis will move the rest of its movement if it can get there and try to find, it doesn't necessarily have to be the spear in Maul's leg, but maybe just like a length of broken wood or shattered wood on the deck, something that could be used maybe as a spear equivalent. There's something like that available.
Can I offer my spiritual weapon?
Can Aegis grab Durnin's spiritual weapon?
I don't know if it says it is made out of like.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like spectral. I could be wrong.
No, it's magical weapon, spiritual weapon. Yeah, it's spectral. Never mind.
But yeah, Karen,
I tried.
Anything that could potentially be used as like an improvised spear, potentially?
Absolutely. You'd be able to find something, if not an actual spear or harpoon. I'm sure you can find a broken piece of wood from that crash that would do the job.
Cool. So yeah, the construct would lumber over to the longest and nastiest looking of these lengths of wood, just pick it up with its free hand, the sword in the other hand, and it would try to throw it at one of these creatures.
Okay, make an attack roll.
Any kind of disadvantage, advantage, anything you worry about?
No, I think they would count. You're above them, they're in the water, so I think it would be all wash at this point. So
okay, cool. Totally fine. I don't even know why I bother rolling. That's like a 5 plus probably I guess this would be what, dexterity? So 5 plus let's see, proficiency plus I think it's like a 10 maybe to hit.
No, that will not do it.
Yeah, and I imagine the length of wood just like sinks harmlessly into the water, and anyone nearby would just hear very quietly, "Fuck." And that's it for Aegis' turn.
And that brings us to Maul.
Yeah, so...
So now you're in the water.
I'm in the water.
Well, the boat is in the water, so
okay,
it's not
the boat
above
is
the
in
ground.
the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these things are not where I can hit them. Well, I mean, I guess first is I would take this. You see, he would just like snap this harpoon shaft so that he could pull it out of his leg, and then he's going to go into. You see him like when he snaps it, and he opens his eyes. They're just burning with furious rage. And he just runs over and he grabs anything that would simply resemble a spear. So just again, just like Aegis did, he just picks up a shaft of wood that has some sort of point on it. And with his furious might, he just hurls it over the ship towards these creatures.
Okay, make me an attack roll.
Okay. Right, and was there any there wasn't any advantage or disadvantage, right?
No, you're just straight up.
Okay. But I am raising no, well that's it doesn't work on attack rolls. It's just okay. So that is going to be a 12.
That unfortunately does not hit them.
Got it.
It the water maybe turns it slightly, or a wave crashes into it or such, but yours does not throw true for you.
Okay.
And that brings us to Durnan.
Are these things clearly visible now, or are they underwater? I guess I'm confused in that.
They're in and out, in and out. So I would say they're clearly visible. You can see where they're at. I mean, they don't stay in one spot. They are swimming all around you.
Okay. I would like to... Holy shit, I didn't take Guiding Bolt. Foolish. I'm going to no, I guess I'm not going to cast. I'm going to throw a hand axe.
You still have your spiritual weapon though, too, right?
I do in fact
Okay.
have a
Yep.
spiritual weapon. So I'm going to throw a hand axe. Dexterity's garbage, but we're trying it. Not bad. 14 on the die for a total of 15.
That is a hit. You can describe how it hits you and how much you do. How much damage do you do, by the way?
Hand axe is 1d4. I do 3 points of damage as I kind of just all of my like accessories, if you will, are kind of attached via like the mountain climbing hooks, like those big. Everyone uses them as keychains now, and there's probably like a thin strip where there's like a ring on the head of this axe, so I can kind of just like pull down, and it will pull off this pull chain and just kind of lob it, because I haven't drawn a weapon yet. So this kind of just pulls off my belt, and I lob it into the water and smack this thing for, I said 3 points of damage.
3 points of damage, yeah.
And kind of as I hear it make contact with this thing, I'm kind of using my hand as I throw to motion towards my spiritual weapon, which kind of like lightning bolts across the deck and into the water to strike at this thing. 17 on the die. I think that hits.
Oh yeah, that's a hit.
Spiritual weapon.
You got a nice targeting with the hand axe, so it was, you knew exactly where this thing was.
Shit. Takes 1d8 plus spellcast. Okay. God damn it. For a total of 4 points of damage.
Okay. And is that it? Or yeah. That brings us to Ivelios.
Ivelios has kind of regained his composure, leaning against the gunnel, and he kind of looks over. There's this stack of like barrels that hold drinking water, and they're all kind of under this big net. But where this thing has crashed down, one of these barrels has actually worked its way loose and has rolled away. And Ivelios is going to look there and realize that kind of grants him a little bit of a vantage point. And he's going to go and kind of clamber up that stack into the hole where that barrel was. And there's a gap kind of in between these barrels in front of him that are closer to the edge of the ship. And he's going to look between that and knock another arrow. So as a bonus action, I'm going to hide. And if I'm able to do so, then I am going to attack from hidden.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Would you like a stealth roll on the hide first?
Yeah, and you can do with advantage because of the rain.
Oh, that's a 20, a natural 20. So with stealth added in, your boy got a 29.
Yeah, so you kind of disappear and nobody
Whoosh.
sees you.
The shadow knows. And then he's going to knock an arrow and let it fly at one of these son of bitches. With advantage, if I'm hidden, that is... Come on, baby. That's a 16.
Yes, that's a hit.
Yes. Okay. So now for some sneak attack damage. I believe it is 2d6 at this point. 3d6. Yowza. All right, so... Seven, and that's 18 points of piercing damage. 18 points of fuck you damage.
Which one were you aiming at? Just any one of them?
Having seen the first one kind of get struck by the dwarf's axe, and the moment of hesitation or like faltering that it kind of takes, he takes that advantage and just puts this arrow like straight into the thing's neck, like right where it meets its shoulder.
Okay, you can describe exactly how that happens to kill it.
Okay. So as it enters this kind of crook between the neck and shoulder, it pierces straight through this thing's heart. It kind of goes down where there's nothing but these little feathered fletchings that are sticking up out of this slimy creature's neck. And it kind of like straightens up and it turns its cloudy eyes kind of upwards, and then it just falls back down into the water, and we just see it like sink into like obscurity and disappear.
Nice. And as the thing disappears into the water, we again go back to the small little fishing village. This time we are outside. We are outside on the docks. We are hiding in a shadow. We cannot be seen, and we are watching. We are watching a group of men carrying some strange bundle as they board the ship and go below. Shortly afterwards, the ship leaves. But we can see in a flash of light, it just catches a glint from those lanterns as it leaves. We see a crest. Avelios, what crest is it that you see on this ship? And why do you recognize it?
This crest is of an elven family, the Ontuo family, one that he has been looking for some time now. There's a particular member of this family that he has been hired to find, and this is his first real physical clue as to where this trail might take him. So he's doing his best to track and follow anybody who has any business with this ship. And if everyone who had any dealings with this ship is still on board, then he'd like to follow the ship itself.
Yes, the ship is leaving the harbor. You can see it go. On the docks, however, there's probably a local sailor, local fisherman. He's packing up some equipment, probably fishing nets or something, standing there. He's not looking at you. He's not looking at the boat or anything, but he is there if you are wanting to approach.
He had something to do with this particular ship?
He did not, but he has been around in the area for a while.
Okay. So I think this guy is like unstacking crates, almost like these like crustacean like traps, these lobster trap looking things. And as he removes one that's kind of eye level, Ivielos is just standing right behind this kind of stack of crates.
And as he looks up and he sees your face, he's like, "Oh, I didn't see you there. Can I help you?"
He has this kind of hardened leather mask. It's kind of got stitches on it, but it covers most of his face except for his eyes, which have this kind of ether blue glow to them. He says, the ship that just left this harbor, do you know where its port of birth is?
No, but I think I might have overheard what they were saying, maybe.
Maybe. And his gloved hand kind of reaches out of the darkness and places a few silver coins on top of the crate that's still there.
And the guy's eye widens. His eyes widen. It's a bit more than he was even expecting, but he doesn't, and then he's like realizes that, he doesn't have a poker face at all. And then he quickly tries to diminish his excitement. And he grabs the coins. Bounty. I overheard them saying they were going to the martyrdom of Bounty.
The martyrdom of Bounty. Thank you very much. And he kind of just walks backwards into the darkness of this grimy place.
A stranger, before you go, he says to an empty wall at this point, I don't know how useful that is, because it's a fabled place. It might have been. Yes.
How do you know of it?
We are taught, and he looks at you again, like you've approached, that you're an elf. There's rumors, sailors, that there's this free city in the water where one could go and won't be shackled no more. You could do what you want for whatever you want. But it is just a myth. Otherwise, I'm sure the authorities would have found it by now.
Kind of looks after this ship kind of leaving the harbor, and yet they sail.
And yet they sail.
Interesting. I appreciate your information. And again, I thank you.
You are welcome.
And I'll leave.
And he goes back to doing his crates. And with that, we're back on that ship in the ocean, in the seas, tossed and turned. And the creatures in the water have reloaded, and they take aim again. And disadvantage really works. So yeah, they all miss as the harpoons just kind of go wide as they're shooting at anything. But the song plagues your mind as a couple of them are still singing. And you see a few more crewmen just kind of stop and jump overboard. Atrides, your turn.
How's the weather looking still? Is it very still highly tumultuous?
Absolutely, yeah. It is still stormy. High wind.
Atrides spreads both of his arms. He looks up and he cackles once again into the storm that's raging high above him. And as he does so, anyone who would pay close attention could swear for a moment that there was a streak of lightning that was timed with his cackle. Immediately around all of us, the air thickens, fog descends, lightning strikes become more and more common. Essentially, he's casting the spell Call Lightning, and he's putting this 60-foot radius cylinder directly around us, where the all these fish folk are circling us. And so now this area becomes this huge storm cloud that makes it even kind of thick to breathe a little bit. And then he calls down a bolt of lightning that crashes directly onto one of these drowned. And that drowned, and well, I mean, if there's two adjacent to each other, then I can get two of them with this lightning bolt. Regardless, they will have to make a dexterity saving throw against DC 14.
I'm afraid they both succeeded.
Okay. And so they will take they'll both take 10 points of lightning damage from this bolt of lightning. And actually, as casting this Call Lightning, I'm able to I'm able to control the existing storm too. And so he's causing the winds to kind of stabilize the boat while disrupting the waters around where the drowned are, essentially putting the boat at like the eye of the storm and having these gale of winds kind of shear around almost in like a typhoon.
Nice.
That rips and batters at them. And I can sustain this storm by concentrating and using my action each turn just to obliterate people. And he's just cackling. And a close eye would see that in one of his hands is a polished, slightly pink conch shell that is gripped white-knuckled in one of his hands. And that is my turn.
In the wrong window, of course. All right, and that would bring us to the storm's turn, and the winds seem to die down for those of you on the deck of the ship. Excuse me. And for this round, at least, you are free from any of the buffeting and the rain that's pelting down. Aegis.
Aegis is going to, almost without even noticing the wind and the rain have subsided somewhat, is going to look around for another length of wood to hurl at one of these creatures, if it's possible to find one.
Absolutely.
See if I can roll something. Nope, sure can't. That is a 10 total.
Yeah, that misses.
Yeah, I figured. As the construct sort of hefts up this this length of wood and throws it. There's this juddering, almost jerking motion from its arm. Some sparks and some oily plumes of white smoke kind of flow out of one of its joints, and the throw just goes completely wide. It's some sort of internal malfunction, for lack of a better way to phrase it.
That brings us to Maul.
Would there be like some netting on the ship?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so Maul like reaches for some netting and just like a fisherman, like casts it out to see if he can entrap one of these drowned. All right. That is a 17.
That is a hit.
Okay. So with the net, I have it here. Or it did. Basically, they are just restrained.
Restrained.
Yeah. So they get the restraint condition, and they have to spend their turn DC 10 strength check to basically get out of it.
And you have your attack rolls have advantage against them.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
So yeah, so if you would like, as soon as like the net falls and I see it like loop over, he would like tug on the rope so that the weights at the end would pull tight, and this drown is like, you know, splashing and flipping just above the surface there. And Maul is like got this rope tied around his arm, and his biceps are bulging, and he's just trying to, with all his strength, just try to hold this creature in place.
Perfect. And that brings us to Durnan then. Durnan, you see that Maul has effectively caught one.
Seeing this, I'm going to I have an emblem of a lantern. Whether magical or some sort of divine blessing, the spot where the candle flame would be in this lantern is kind of more reflective than the rest of the more like dull bronze polished emblem. I'm going to hold it with my left hand and kiss it as a blinding ball of sacred flame erupts from my hand, and I'm going to cast that as well as attack with my spear.
Which one are you aiming at? Just so I know.
Just the one in the net.
The one in the net. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Sacred Flame is a DC 14, by the way. Dexterity save.
I believe restrain means they automatically... oh, no, this is disadvantage on dex saves. Okay.
And the spear is going to be hitting with a 17.
Okay, so 17 hits, and they failed on their dex save.
Oh, so much damage. Where's my other D8? So he gets 8 points of damage and 3 points of damage. The 3 points is radiant, if that matters.
Okay. Okay, this light...
Actually, I lied. My radiant, or not my radiant, my Sacred Flame does 2d8 at 5th level. So an extra 5 points of damage.
Another 5. Okay. So this thing in the net just kind of shrieks as you hit it with this light, and it burns and damages them. They are still squirming, but they are badly damaged. Avelios, your turn.
Aurelios, having shot from this position already, he's going to leap down kind of in a frog hop onto the deck, land, and then immediately kind of dash into a sprint over to a completely different part of the ship. And as he kind of comes to a stop at the gunnel, he's going to aim at a different one from a different direction now, between the railings. Again, I'm attempting to hide as a bonus action and then attack.
Okay.
It worked last time, so let's do it again. That is only a 14 on the stealth. You said advantage because of the rain?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Then that is an 18.
Yep.
Okay. So attacking with advantage. That is going to be a 23 to hit.
That is going to hit. And which one were you attacking?
One of the ones that's not caught in the net.
Okay, so we have 2 injured ones and 1 that's not.
One of the ones that is injured.
Okay.
1. That's 4, and then 17 points of piercing damage.
So you can describe how that one also dies.
This one, I think, was actually swimming over to try to free its compatriot from this net, and thus kind of leaving itself exposed up out of the surface of the water for just enough time. And he kind of waits and then releases this arrow, and this thing goes straight through one of its kind of cloudy white eyes. And there's this shrieking noise as this thing flails backwards and then also sinks below.
Nice. And the other injured one swims quickly towards one of these sailors that have jumped into the water. And you can see as it grabs this man and it kisses it. And the man changes. You could see that all of a sudden he becomes more like the drowned. And the creature looks like it was healing itself. We have one in the net, we say. What is it to get out of the net? A strength check?
Yeah, they spend their action, but it's just a DC 10 strength.
Okay, so it's totally going to try that. And it makes it. So with a slash from its claw, I guess it manages to open up enough of the netting below it, and will drop into the water. And then there's the last one. Who is taking its turn to reload his harpoon. So that brings us to Atrides.
Atrides brings the conch to his lips, blows upon it, and thunder crashes from the sky as another bolt of lightning comes down, and the shockwave of it just causes everyone to kind of reel back a little bit. Can I catch 2 in the same spot here? It's a
Yeah, I would say so. The guy,
radius.
a 5-foot radius?
Yeah. Like a 10 diameter.
Oh yeah.
Circle.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna get through 2 of these. They both have to make DC 14 dexterity saving throws. Ooh.
14, you say. They both failed that one.
They're gonna take 21 points of lightning damage. Both of them.
Okay.
From the strike.
You can describe how one of them is pretty much obliterated, while the other one shrieks and is very, very, very damaged.
As one of them gets struck, just bang on by this lightning strike, it reaches for its companion drowned. And as the lightning surges from the primary drowned into the second one, it turns and bakes it and fries it to a crisp. And the second one would have these nasty scorch marks from where the first drowned touched its arm and down, snaking through, arcing through its arteries down beside it and into the water as it found a path along its side. This one is very injured by this, but it's still alive. The other one, however, the lightning went straight through its heart into its hand, and that was just a blackened corpse that now floats, and is probably just tossed away by the raging storm, as they continue to maintain this monsoon that protects us and shields us from their silliness.
In the storm, you're still controlling it?
Yeah, I'm still maintaining control of it as long as for the next 10 minutes or until I break concentration.
Okay, so again, those of you on the deck of the ship are finding it much easier as the storm seems to be raging all around you, but not right on you. Aegis.
So seeing the success and how effective the use of the fishing nets were, Aegis is going to abandon throwing pieces of wood at these things because it has not worked at all so far, and see if it can find another fishing net to cast out amongst the remaining 3 drowned.
Yes, you can definitely find a fishing net. And yes, to answer your question before, yes, when the sailor that was kissed definitely looks like he has become one of them.
That's not good. There's plenty of sailors in the water. No bueno. What are we rolling for the nets again? I apologize.
Just roll to hit.
There we go. That's a roll. That's a 19 plus stuff.
That will do it. So who are you aiming at this point?
So there's the 2 and there's the new one. She's actually, or it, excuse me, is actually going to name at the new one.
Okay, yeah. All right. So he's caught. And is that your turn?
That will be all.
All right, that will bring us to Maul.
All right. With this creature caught in the net, he's going to he's going to take one of his javelins and just kind of try to spearfish this drowned.
Which one are you aiming at? The one that's caught or?
Yeah, the one that's caught.
Yeah, okay.
That's 17.
You betcha.
Okay, D6. Okay. So that's 8 plus my rage damage, 9, 10. So 10 piercing.
Okay.
And forgot I had an extra attack, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that too. That is a 14 to hit.
And you are rolling with advantage, right? Because he's restrained.
Oh yeah, that's right. That again. That is better. It's a 16.
That will hit.
Okay. And that is going to be 9, 10, 11 piercing again. So yeah, he just takes these 2 javelins and straight down.
And you can describe how this newly drowned dies.
So yeah, the first one like kind of pierces through the back as it kind of arcs up as its whole like front humanoid half comes up out of the water. And the second spear goes kind of through the back of the head and through the mouth as it kind of goes limp and the blood begins to pool around in the water.
And with that, we're back in a tavern. And this is a time before you met Atrides. Probably before you were jostled with the beer. It was earlier that day. Maybe why you were in such a bad mood at the time. But while you were sitting there in this tavern, drinking, just minding your own business, trying to figure out where you were going, a group of men had come into the bar, into this tavern, and had sat down and had some ales. But as they were leaving, you think you overheard one of them say to another, you couldn't really hear, but you heard the name Maman. And this name caught your eye, caught your ears, made you look up. And as they left the building, you couldn't see who they were. You didn't get a really good look at them, but you saw one of their arms, and on the arm was a tattoo. What was this tattoo?
This tattoo looks very similar to kind of like a Bonekin skull, where it's got kind of a humanoid skull, but the horns kind of curled down towards the jawline.
And you know that you have seen a tattoo very similar to this one before. It was the day that you left your village, or right before that, the day you lost everything that you cared about. This tattoo is the same as the ones that those men wore as well. And with that, we find ourselves back in the seas. Durnan, it is your turn.
So just to clarify, we have 2 of these things left in the water? Or 3?
That is correct. You have one that looks very healthy after having a nice long smooch with the sailor, and a very burnt, crispy one.
I am going to cast Sacred Flame on the healthy looking one, so DC 14, and then I'm going to attack the crispy looking one with my spiritual weapon.
Failed on the DC 14.
Then you take 15 points of damage. Wait, I don't add my modifier to that, I don't think. No. So you take 12 points of damage.
12. Okay. And you were attacking the other one, right?
Correct. Natural 20.
All right. You can just describe how you kill this thing.
So the spiritual weapon, which though it says it is spectral for all intents and purposes, it appears solid, as almost like a solid iron piece. This iron, very dark and almost looking like scorched. And it dives into the water and disappears from sight for a while until it emerges like kind of vertically straight up, and this thing kind of harpooned like under the rib cage, through the chest cavity, and out its collarbone, as it's kind of like trying to struggle to move, but the spiritual weapon has it pinned and up out of the air. And then it will kind of eject itself from the body as it kind of falls into the water, and it's slicked clean of whatever gore or viscera that were on it.
With that, we find ourselves back in that fishing village. It's a little bit later in the night. This boat has sailed. Avelios, if you are still on the docks watching or looking, you see a dwarven man. He seems to approach somebody down on the other side of the dock. Durnan, as you're approaching this man, you ask him about the ship that was just there, the one that was moored here earlier that day. And he shows you, he digs in his pocket and he shows you a coin that they had given him for some task rudimentary that he did for them. And you see this coin, and this coin is familiar to you. It is the coin that hated clan mints in their homeland. Describe this coin.
This coin is silver. Where's my questionnaire with the names? The Mezpa clan. They print primarily silver coinage. Gold coinage being a very important thing. It isn't usually something that we just give out, perhaps as freely. This coin is probably about the size of like a $50 or, just a good sizable coin. And minted on the face is a hammer emblazoned with like a strong flat face on one side, and then like a curved, almost like a ball bean hammer. And kind of like embroidered on the side is like the smoke and like crossed barrels of two hellhounds, and like how they kind of curl up around this. And on the other side, it is the profile of the like leader of the clan, Tarek Mezpa the second. And he is like balding on the top, kind of like very sleeked back for like the foraging. You can tell that his hair has been pulled back, almost like it's receding because of that. And his beard has many clasps and gold rings kind of in it. Not that you'd be able to tell they're gold, but kind of depicting in his face.
We find ourselves again back in the seas. We have this one left in the water, and it looks around and it sees all of its fellows dead, scorched, blasted, cleaved. And with one last shriek, it turns and dives below the waters. And for a while longer, the storm rages on. Atreides does his best to hold the worst at bay. Eventually, your spell fades. but so too does this storm. And then the seas are quiet again, and the boat sails on. And I think that's where we're going to stop for the evening. Thank you, everyone who was watching or will watch. This has been the first session of the long night. I'm going to throw it back at the players. We will start with Jason.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Osorio. I was playing Aegis and just rolling terribly because apparently that's what I do tonight. And like I said, I'm with a small YouTube channel, Concepts and Characters. Flipping the Table is the podcast that I'm a part of. And I just want to say, of course, thank you, Karen, and to all of my fellow players. This was a lot of fun, even if I was not rolling so well. Might have to get some new dice for the next session. But yeah, this is great, and I can't wait to see what happens during the rest of the long night. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I hope your dice are much nicer to you next time you play. Next, we have Connor.
Hey, I'm Connor from Dice on Ice. I had fun being the Storm Master, basically being the savior of the day, because we all know that without my lightning and calming of the storm, you all would have just been like hopping into the water, ready to get kissed by some drowned. And this man here saved it all, and I'm totally not tooting my own horn. A lot of fun playing with you guys. Looking forward to the next session. Yeah, this was really fun. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to go on to Ellen.
Oh yeah, my name is Alan. You can check me out at Check for Traps. Blah, tongue tied. I played Maul the Barbarian, and yes, the long night is already proving to be a terrible thing to behold and to be a part of. So I imagine it will only get harder and get scarier from here, as the drowned are pretty frightening creatures. And the night has just begun, so to speak. So I look forward to continuing on with our next session. So thank you so much for having me, and I really enjoyed it.
And thank you for coming along with us on this journey. It's I hope to have a few more surprises for you guys, so wait and see. Baron.
What's up, everyone? I'm Baron. I run the YouTube channel RWD Gaming. I was graced with the opportunity to play. Hold on, I'm not going to murder this. Durnan Kodrenra of House Kodrenra. And getting to bring back a one-shot character for a mini campaign is definitely ideal. So happy to see what more I can carve a niche for these dwarves in this setting where I'm on a boat as a dwarf. How ideal.
I am excited to see what you do with the dwarves, and may you hit land at some point, I'm sure.
Bound to happen one of these days.
And last but not least, Jeremy.
Hi, everybody. I am Jeremy. I played the character Avelios tonight. And yeah, I have a YouTube channel called the Erasmus Expeditions. Do a lot of live plays and videos talking about RPGs and such. I'm also a part of the Dudes of Yore podcast, which can also be found on YouTube. Go check those things out. This is the first time that I've gotten the chance to play in this setting. It's a setting that is very, very special to me, and I really enjoy how it's kind of developing and starting to kind of grow beyond even just my own initial thoughts. It's very exciting to see that happen to a creation and get the chance to mold it from this side of the screen. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity, Karen, and being able to do so with the four chuckleheads that I get the chance to play with here is just stellar. So it's a great way to kick the week off, and I am very excited to see where the rest of this is going to take us. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all of you. I couldn't have asked for a better group to do this with, and so I'm going to call it there, but we will be back in 2 weeks to have session 2. So thank you, everyone, and see you later.